I really want to speak to the energy of our authentic voice. And there's a few questions that were shared with me and given to me to kind of answer. So this isn't like a training. This isn't kind of this like, hey, 3 steps to the quickest way to. We're not doing any of that. This is very much, I have the questions and I'm going to speak to the answers, channeling the information, getting the insight energetically. So this is really an opportunity, especially if you are here on Substack. If you're on my Instagram, I don't even know the link to come over here. So it's Authority After Dark on Substack. So do feel free to come over because I'm probably not going to monitor the chat there at all because we are focused here in Substack. So if you have any questions that come up, please do put them in the chat. I can see that because I'm not sharing my screen today. So I should be able to see any questions that you have around this, anything around your voice, anything around kind of resistances in the voice, and whether it's specifically messaging that you want to label it as, or whether it is kind of visibility, because it all kind of weaves together. Feel free to share those and I will get to as many as I can. So the first thing I'm going to do is take a sip of my tea. So bear with. We have some like raspberry and hibiscus stuff going on, which was actually suggested for me by someone because I was and have been working with Archangel Uriel. And apparently some of these are good herbs to work with that energy. So I'm just going to take a quick sip. Oh, nice. Okay. So the first thing that I want to talk to in terms of energy of voice and that authentic voice, because we hear the word authentic really frequently. We hear it so much everywhere. And when you work from an energetic place, which I know many of my audience already work from an energetic place, we hear the word authentic and it means something slightly different to like just being yourself, because we know how many layers have been placed on us, how much programming has been placed on us in terms of kind of to pull us away from what is our authentic energy. And there's so many ways that you can look at authentic, and really it's like true to you, right? It's something that should, but doesn't always feel good when you use it. And when we really think about it, there is a lot of pressure for us to show up in a certain way, to deliver in a certain way, to be in a certain way. And that pressure in itself already contorts what we think is authentic energy, because it's still having an impact on us. Now, I speak in my world quite frequently about what I call the BU frequency framework, which really speaks to multiple levels of frequencies that are impacting your business, your success, your life, all of this. And it starts with the B, which is your business energy. So straight away, when we think about authentic voice, we're thinking about what your business does, right? We're thinking about like what it serves, how it helps, and how it communicates, how it reaches people. Already your business has a frequency. Then we've got the Y, which is your frequency. So you have your own coded energetic IP, and that's stuff that you've brought into this lifetime. It's stuff that you've kind of had a contract to agree to do, to learn, to experience. And that's part of that programming. It's part of that shedding. It's part of being like, and learning to be more in that voice. Then we have O, which is other people. So again, within the business, when we're thinking about our authentic voice, we can often feel restricted by the O, which is the others, of, you know, am I saying the right thing for my audience? Am I connecting? Am I magnetic enough? Am I enough? Am I doing enough? And also the others can also be family. It can be friends. It can be peers. And that can also have an impact on how our voice performs and how we show up. Then we have the U at the end, which is universal energy. And with this, I really love this because this is something that most people don't overly take into account. But universal energy is the energy that is happening collectively around us, right? So in terms of, if we think about collective and what impacts it can have on the business, you can think about the economy and kind of what the running narrative is on social media or in the news and what the fear mongering might be, right? That can also have an impact on your business and your message and your voice. Also, we have the astrological components that go into that. So where there are certain transits, where there are certain placements happening, this also impacts your voice. Whether you play along with astrology or not, it will have an impact on the things that you want to say. There's no coincidence that people talk about similar things at similar times and with certain transitions happening, even if they don't know about astrology, right? So already you can see how complex this can be to think about and manage all of these energy frequencies and everything that goes into your authentic voice, because all of those frequencies are not constant. They are ebbing, flowing, changing, and moving, right? And if there is one thing I can say right now to kind of give anyone some insight and information of like awareness that you can let some of this shit go, right? Where we overthink things, where we overanalyze things, where we worry. I do this all the time too, right? Even 20 minutes before this video, I was like, oh my God, I should have prepped. I should have had notes. I should have done this. I should have done that, right? Because that's that programming. It's that good girl wound. It's all of these things that come into play when really I can trust myself to answer the questions that are in front of me, speak to the concepts that I know to be true and channel insight and information. I know that I can trust myself to do that, but I still will come into times, areas, frequencies, because things are ebbing and flowing around me, that will change how my voice might present, right? If I sat in that fear and didn't move it away, I might sound different. It might come across differently. So there's so much happening that really we can't ever control everything. We can't control every variable, even if we want to. It is not possible to control every variable. So even that in itself is the first permission slip to let go of some of the parameters around making it right, sounding right, being enough, not being too much, because every single energy frequency will move and shift, and it will be different tomorrow. You've had this probably yourself, where if you hear something on one day and you know that if you'd heard it the day before, it would have been really irritating, but like today your energy's in a different place. Like you have to give your audience the permission as well to be in a different state receptively as time moves on, as your message moves on, and as things shift and change, because we are always so concerned. Firstly, this was one of the questions was around, how do I keep saying the same message without repeating myself and without it being boring for my audience? Let me tell you, because those energies move, because those frequencies change, that same message can be said multiple times and it will hit differently every single time that you say it. Some people will go deeper into the message. Some people will skip parts. It is a natural thing for people to hear, what they want to be hearing, see what they want to be seeing within the lines, within the message, within all of that. So there is, again, a second permission slip. This is what we're doing today, apparently. We're handing out permission slips that you can actually let go of some of these thoughts of like, this is going to be boring, this is going to be this, because the reality is the energy will be different. I could redo this in an hour's time and have different response, different insight, different information coming through, because there is really such a shift in frequency so fast. So we really don't have to worry about repeating ourselves, about being dull, about being boring in that way because we're repeating the same message. It's actually a lot of the time more of our own dopamine hit that struggles with this. And it's really something that we have to kind of work with and be aware of, because a lot of the time we are starving our insight, our information, our help, our service, our support to our audience, because we are chasing our own dopamine, our own, it has to be interesting for me. When actually, if you repeat some of the things again and again, it's going to be more powerful and more potent when we do sit in and repeat. I just want to say hello to anyone that's joining over on my Instagram. I appreciate you. I am currently live on my Substack. So if you see me looking down, that is why we have the laptop right here in front of me. And this is where I had planned to go live. So the intention wasn't to be over on Instagram, but thank you so much for being here. But feel free to join in the conversation. So already 2 permission slips when we're talking about voice, right? And the reality is, your authentic voice isn't something you have to find. Your messaging is something that you will want to be finding and that you will want to be honing and that you will want to be practicing. But your authentic voice is already there. It is already within you. because it has always been within you. And the reality is that in this day and age with, wow, I was going to say COVID, COVID doing what it's doing. No, let that not be an intuitive hit. With literally, Spirit just told me to put my protection bracelets on, so bear with me. But AI is what I was going to say. With AI being somewhere that we can get message, insights, information, right, and make it easier on our business. And I'm not going to say anything about what's right or wrong for what you do in your business. I know people who have trained their AI to be really, really good at their voice. And I'm in a container myself that is sort of teaching us how to implement bits and pieces of AI to really support the back end of the business. And even within that, they were talking about, like, we're creating these things for you to be able to do emails and you can use them or not use them. And I really appreciate that, because I really like writing my emails, right? I like sitting down and writing them, but they don't take me long. They really don't take me long to write. But other people, it might be an hour, 2 hours to write one email. So I would never say don't use AI. But what I will say in terms of the authentic voice is that there is a frequency that your own words hold. And I'll share this because I got caught in a mistake fairly recently. So there was a period of time I was putting an automated thing on my email that said, no, I don't use AI, not even to spell check. Because sometimes I will just write an email and send it. I don't do very well in spell checking. I don't do very well at proofing. I can proof other people's stuff and see all of the things, but my own, and I know many people are like this, my own, I do not see it. I don't notice it. I don't encounter it. So I'd forgotten to take it off on something that I had run through AI. And somebody replied to my email and they said, like, can I just ask, did you use AI to write this? And immediately I was like, oh, fuck, like, I've done the thing and I've left the thing on. I should have taken it off. It now looks like I'm lying. And I'm very open. So I was really honest. I was like, this is how I write. This is how I work. I use a template. There's a copywriting template, which is literally headlines. And I fill content in that is mine. And sometimes I'll get it to edit things. But what was beautiful for me, and a reminder, and again, divine intervention, she was really appreciative that I was really open and had said that I'd left that on by mistake. And also had said that my writing has a distinctive style. Not verbatim. Just a reminder on Instagram, I am over on my Substack. So if you see me looking down at the camera, that is why. But you are welcome to join in conversation, add any questions, etc. I just wanted to have both running. So I really appreciated that they had noticed that my voice was different in that email. And I want that firstly to be a reminder to other people. You might think that people don't notice. You might think that people can't tell. There are lots of subtle tells, and there are lots of ways that people can see and sense it. And it was a real moment for me where I was just like, yeah, this is a reminder. I love writing emails. Like, why would I get AI to write my emails? And I get lots of questions about using AI and how it impacts your kind of energetic frequency and how it, I'm not going to go into the right wrongs of environment and all of that. As a whole other conversation and a whole other thing. But just from the perspective of your authentic voice, there are patterns, there are words, there are frequencies that come through the written form as well as the vocal form. And if you are someone that feels like it is a struggle to, formulate an email or get words out quickly, I suggest so many different things. You can use audio, you can voice note yourself in a format and then tell AI to use your exact wording, but putting it into a format, not to add additional words, not to change the tonality, not to do these things. So many people will just get it to write a thing to sell a thing and then wonder why it's not connecting with people, because people can tell, and people are subconsciously now searching more than ever to find the authentic thing, whether they want to admit it or not. Okay. And I give this example. I am a massive I'm techie. I'm so techie. I love techie stuff. I used to run people's businesses, tech back end, love it. It is my comfort zone. It is somewhere that I love being. So I've understood and worked with AI for a very long time. Before ChatGPT was a thing, I was working with AI. I cannot personally stand when I see a sales page, a website, a image that I know is AI. And you can tell very easily. Now, I don't ever want to take away from people doing things quickly and effectively. And I know that it will change within a few months so that we won't be able to tell as much. Like right now, it's all Claude coded, so it's really obvious, right? And soon we will have that where we can't tell as quickly. And it doesn't mean that the words on those sales pages are not written specifically from their original copy. It's just that the formatting is AI. But I know that if I'm consciously aware of that, there will be people who are unconsciously aware of that and are still making that same choice of this is not for me. It all starts to look the same. Hey, Jess. I'm over on my Substack, by the way. So this is why I'm looking down, just to let you know. But if you have any questions that come up on any of this, let me know. It really, really is something that people are noticing, feeling, like literally feeling. I opened an email from someone that I've been on their list for a very long time, read their emails, and the email has completely changed. And I know that the formatting is 100% AI. I'm not saying that their words are AI, but just the formatting alone was enough for me to unsubscribe in that moment. And I have bought from that person. I have consumed from that person, but I no longer want that information in my inbox. Now, again, I'm not saying this is right. I'm not saying this is wrong. We all have choices. But in terms of authentic frequency, it is getting harder and harder to believe, feel what is coming through in these channels, in these content formats. And Spirit are telling me to say something that I actually shared in one of my coaching containers at the end of last year. It was around, I think it might have been December, because it would have been near the solstice. And during this conversation, it was in my high proximity coaching container. And someone said, what do you see happening in the industry next? Of like what's going to work and what isn't. And I distinctly remember saying, hey, I don't want to have to say this, because many people in my world come into my world because they've been energetically depleted. They have been burnt out in whatever capacity. Many people are energy sensitive. Many people are neurodivergent. There is a wave of people who are exhausted, and we've been building businesses in a way that can be as passive as possible, that can be of service without being draining to us. And that is 100% still possible. But what I said is that over the next 2 years, people will want to see you live. They will want to know it's you. They will want to ask you questions. They will want to speak to you. It will be subconscious. They won't necessarily be trying to drain you. And that is why you being able to use your authentic voice in all platforms, in all ways, needs to be coherent. It needs to be consistent. If you have AI writing your emails and then you show up and you sound completely different, it gets noticed, it gets logged, it gets banked, and it creates more mistrust. And we really don't want that mistrust. We don't want to deepen it. So it's making sure that even if you are using AI in any capacity, which is I'm totally here for making your life easier, it's still making sure that it is your authentic voice in there, that impact is actually in there, because it is so needed. And It's why I'm doing more lives like this as much as I can energetically, as much as I'm able to energetically, because I want people to see that it's me, that it's, you know, I'm not reading off a slide. I'm not reading off a teleprompter. This is me. This is my insights. This is how I work. This is, if you come for a coaching session with me, if you come for a reading with me, if you're in my containers, this is how I work. I channel information. It's not this thing of like, oh, actually, let me just get these 3-2 steps off wherever. It is my knowledge. It is my wisdom. And that's really important for me. And I think it's probably important for people who are in my audience as well. It's a really vital part of the authentic voice, right? And I really wanted to put in to this title today of just like without the vulnerability hangover, because I think that's also a really important piece to talk about, because so many people come into my world and I'm like, let me just pull up. I said I don't have notes, and then I've got like one question that I want to make sure that I get the wording right. Because it was really about like that kind of vulnerability. Yeah, like, so it was Vanessa who she sent me a few questions, so I'll make sure that I weave these in as well. But she really spoke about wanting to understand how to share personal information so that they can, like, so she can help people, but helping them also like get to know, like, and trust, right? But while still being professional, okay? And it's like not wanting to dump on people, but also wanting to understand, like, them to understand that you're human as well, and that you are experiencing these things, right? That you are in it. And it's a really interesting one, because this is where authentic can kind of get muddled, because yes, I mean, one of the things that she did note in her own message was like, maybe it's the concept around, you know, what's professional. And I 100% agree with that. I was on a panel recently at a summit, and that was one of the things that came up. And I said the same thing there of just like, yeah, but what's professional? What's your version of professional? Like, where does that story come from? Where does that narrative come from? Because I know people who are incredibly successful, incredibly professional, but they're not suited and booted, and they're not like talking corporate, and they're not following the rules. They're doing things very, very differently. And in fact, a lot of the people who've made the most money in my world in the last year or 2 years are definitely not towing the line and are definitely not following normal protocol, right? But they're still professional. They are still able to be open and sharing. And I think there is an energy as well around like vulnerability, where we worry about vulnerability, and that word that was used there of just like emotional dumping and sharing too much, because we feel like being vulnerable perhaps means that we are not professional in some way, or that it takes away from our authority. And the reality with this is that this will be personal to each person and each person's situation. For some people, sharing more of what's happening whilst it's happening is powerful and in alignment with their business model. I would say that that's very much the case for me. I'm not massively someone that shares lots of information, but I will say, you know, if I'm having to cancel something because I've got to take my dad to the hospital, then I'm going to say I've got to cancel something because I'm taking my dad to the hospital. Like, this is my reality. I'm living in a reality where I'm helping aging parents at this stage of my life. Like, I help other people who are also doing that, right? So it's like, it benefits my audience to know the things that I'm going through. And as someone who is deep in this energy work, deep in the healing work and the growth and the spiritual journey, and is an advocate for this isn't one and done. Like, we're continuing this cycle. We are working through these things. It's our purpose. It's our life. I also speak very frequently to the things that I'm going for, like, or through, and sharing those things of like, this is the healing I'm doing, or this is the experience I'm having, and this is what's coming up for me. It's easy for me to sit into that because I've practiced it. And I understand how difficult it can be for people to really be vulnerable, to share from a vulnerable place. And the reality is that when we are sharing something vulnerable, you want to really think about a few things. Okay. I need to take a sip of my drink again. Just a quick reminder over on Substack, over on Instagram, I'm down on my Substack, so come and join us over here. I really think about things from this perspective of, if we are in it, right? People talk about this from like sharing from the scar, not the wound. And it's a massive thing that's said all the time. And I don't believe that that is always true, right? Like I said, I will share from the wound. I'm like, the world's fucking falling apart today. Like, this is happening. But there are probably wounds that I might not share from. And it is about having discernment on what you share. There is no right or wrong. Because in reality, like I spoke earlier, of these moving energies and these moving frequencies, you could share within a wound one day and it have such an impact on people, and share that same thing in a different, in a different scenario or a different situation. And you might have someone that receives it differently and is just like, oh God, they're dumping everything. But they might not have felt that in a different way. We can't control how people will perceive the information that we share and what that looks like. So the thing to think about first in terms of what we share and how vulnerable we are, you have to understand it from your own values first. Take everyone else out first. You have to look at yourself first. And I speak about this really, really frequently of we need to be more selfish, right? And not in a way of fuck everyone, but in a way of you first, so that it can be about everyone else. It is vital and important that women lean into this more and live from this more, because while we are out here trying to serve, trying to help, running the family, we are giving so much of ourselves away that we are losing our power in our voice internally. We are losing that authority in our voice internally, and it becomes a distorted voice. So the first thing to do, if there is something you're like, I want to share more with my audience, but I don't want to be over emotional and dump everything, check in with yourself first. Are you able and ready to share what is happening? Are you in a position that if that situation changed, moved in a direction that you're not currently aware of, but there's a potential of it, and if it moved in that direction, you would still be okay to continue to share, or put a boundary up and say, hey, I now currently can't share anymore on this? Because people might want to know more and might want to follow a journey. So you have to think about things from that perspective. I would really lean into that. I would really lean into that first, right? Because you will get the pull and you will get the knowledge and the wisdom of, hey, this will really help other people, right? Because that's what I hear all the time. I hear clients say to me, you know, I'm going through this. I don't know how to talk about it. I don't know how to share it, but I know it's going to help other people. And that's then your next barometer of like, if that's where you're at, you need to check with yourself first. Are you actually safe, comfortable, and able? There is a difference between being in the wound, experiencing it, and experiencing it from a place of pain, right? Because we can sometimes be in a wound, but be conscious enough of our healing, of our own energy, how we hold ourselves, how we lead ourselves, so that we know that we can share this. It comes from practice to be able to know those two different frequencies, because some people will not share something because they are fearful, because they are scared of what people will say. And we don't want to hide behind that, which is a fear, scarcity, like block. We want to be in a space of, yeah, this is going to be a stretch for me because it's uncomfortable to share this, but I know that I can hold it. I know that I can handle anything that is said. I know that I can process that. That's the place where, yeah, okay, actually, I could share from this place. If you are not in that place, we don't want to share. We don't want to do it until you are. And that's where I think there's the difference and the misconception between like sharing from the scar, not the wound. Because if you are in your authenticity, authority, and power enough, you can share from the wound in a way that it works. It's not for everybody. I will say that it really isn't for everybody. We're then looking at it from a place of, okay, great. Now, how does it serve? So where the question asks about like, where is it potentially like too much? You know, how do I know if it's too much? How do I know that I'm not just dumping everything on them? I want them to know that I'm human. I want them to know that I'm experiencing human things, but I still want them to see me as that authority, right? When we sit into the frequency of this, we want to come from a place of service. We want to come from the frequency of, is this going to be helpful? Is this valuable to the audience, right? So even within the question, it's like, I want them to, I want to increase that know, like, and trust. That will happen naturally when we are in our authentic energy, when we are talking about true things, what's real for us, what's happening for us, what's going on in our space, in our industry, in our lives. That will happen naturally. And the more people try to force it and try to push it, I think the more it actually moves away from them. It's that kind of the thing with energy, right? It's like, I always describe this of like when you put your hand through water, like when it, like, I don't know, you're swimming, you're in the sea, whatever it is, and you push water and it like pushes out when you push it, and there is resistance back, but everything moves away. It's like it parts. And I'm like, if you're pushing, this relates to everything, by the way. If you are pushing really hard for something, there is so much of it that is moving away from you, rather than when you are open and just open-handed, like the water can flow through your fingers, it can move around you. This is the same when it comes to how much you're sharing and what you're doing. And it's like, if you're pushing to be this authority, if you're pushing to be this voice, like, trust me, trust me, trust me, trust me, trust me, you are pushing this gap and this distance between people. So we don't ever want to think about things from a place of like, how do I get them to trust me? How do I get them to believe me? Because already we're then in this weird world where actually we're then not authentic anymore, right? And it's natural. We're naturally doing it because we're like, I know that if they can be in my world, they'll love it and they'll want my stuff, right? We know that that's the case for so many of us. But it's that it's just the laws of the universe and how everything works. It's like, it's annoying, but that is the reality. So you really then just want to think about it from that place of service. It's like, okay, cool. Instead of pushing something to be like, okay, trust me, trust me, trust me. It's like, let me hold this and evaluate this. Is this going to be helpful? Is this going to be valuable? Will this help one person? And that's the barometer that I go with. Like, some people are out there of just like, can this help 20 people? Can this, but I can care less as long as this helps one person. If one person hears something from my voice, from my insight, from my channel, that is going to help them, I know that will help thousands of people in the long run. I know it will, because we interact with so many people and my people are helping other people. It's just this like knock-on effect. So it's like, is this valuable? Is this something that someone can have a reframe on, think differently, aha moment? Is it something that they can feel seen and witnessed, right? Is it where they can see parts of themselves in that story, that narrative, that situation? Is it where people are kind of woken up a little bit, reminded of who they are, like it being kind of like an empowerment? Like, look for those kind of things, because those things themselves hold such a magical frequency. Like, even as I'm saying that, spirit of like completely lit my whole body up. They're just like the empowerment. And it's like, your wound and your story feels like it's a dump and a share for you because it's uncomfortable. But if it's witnessed and seen and reflected in someone else, it's empowering. It's a completely different frequency. So we're often viewing it as, oh my God, I'm being too much. I'm emotionally dumping. I'm putting this all out here. When really what is then happening is that for them, they are receiving that in a different way. I also just want to add, and this is very much me, not necessarily spirit, but my spirit team is spicy like me as well. If it seems like it's too much for one person, who gives a shit? If you still can sit in that energy and that frequency and say, I know that sharing this is going to be helpful for someone else, then you are in a really, really powerful position. There will always, like I said, because of the different frequencies, because of so much at play, there will always be someone that doesn't like what you've got to say, thinks it's too much, triggers something, whatever it is. Always. We cannot live our lives scared to speak our truth, our experiences, our journey, sharing our energetic IP, because one person might think it's too much, because it might look a certain way. So it's an invite once again. Here's I think it's like the third permission slip in this right now, to let some of that go, loosen the grip on that, right? And again, I want to share, because I also know kind of some of the things that are going on specifically for Vanessa. So I want to highlight this as well of, you don't have to share everything. You don't have to tell them everything. And you can also shut the gate whenever you need to. And that's the same for all of us. If there are things that you feel that will benefit people and you feel strong enough to share them, you can share them, but also ask people to respect your privacy, to, like, close the door again when you need to. You see this in the press all the time, right? Like, it's like, hey, we're going through this thing, we're getting divorced, blah, 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 blah. Please respect our privacy at this time. Open door, this is what's happening. Please understand what's happening. For those that resonate, understanding, please respect our privacy. Boundary, we can put the door back in place. And you always have the control and the power to do that. So keep that in your pocket. Know that you can always do that when it comes to showing up in this way. Okay, I think that covered that question. Let me just have a little look here. She spoke about this as well, of like, how do you find the balance between personal and professional? And how do we define professional? And I know I spoke before of like, professional is just kind of a title that people, it's like professional looks different for everybody. You have to make the decision of what professional is in your business. I know that currently, right now, what makes a lot of people uncomfortable in our businesses is how much it is a personal brand, how much it is a personal business, and how much that weaves into what it means about us. So we then overthink everything. We overanalyze everything, because everything that we're putting out there in our subconscious is going, yeah, but that means shit about me. And it's not, it's our business, right? Two separate entities, two separate energies. Remember, business energy, your energy, two separate things. But there is such a weaving of these frequencies. So there's no right or wrong when it comes to defining how much of your personal insights, information, story that you share, and how much is professional and what that looks like. It really depends, industry to industry, space to space, person to person. Even the cycle and the energy and the frequency that you're currently in will change and shift how that looks. So it's really, again, about having that discernment of how powerful you feel to be able to share the things that you're sharing. How much then is it going to be in the same way? It's like, is it going to be beneficial? Is it going to serve? Is it going to be helpful? Is it going to allow people to experience you on a deeper level? We're not talking about, again, forcing them to trust you, but there are certain spaces and industries where people need to know what your personality is like. They need to know how you sound. They need to know things that weave in between. So I will give this example, and I think I shared this here on one of my last lives. Recently, a couple of months back, I was looking for a new coach, and I was receiving funding specifically for a very specific coach. So to get that funding to work for this specific coach, it was like a neurodivergent aspect that had to be like ticked. And they needed to be able to do certain things to meet the criteria for said funding. And I'm like, okay, this is a very boring title. Executive coaching was what it said that I needed to fit. But I started searching and was searching specifically to bring in things that I like. So I'm like, maybe they've got a hypnosis qualification. Maybe they understand somatics. Maybe they do breath work. And I started looking down that avenue. And one, for everybody, by the way, that highlights, this is how people are searching now. I was going on Claude. I was putting those things in. I'm like, it's got to meet these criteria and also potentially have one or more of these. Boom, 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 boom. And then it spits out the list and I can go and look. What shocked me the most is I probably went on, I think it was more than 50, but we'll say 50 to keep the numbers nice. I maybe clicked on 50 pages, 50 websites of people that might meet the criteria that had been served up to me by Claude. And of those 50, 40 had no way of me hearing them talk. No video, nothing. If I went to their Instagram, no videos, no talking head, no intro, nothing. And immediately I clicked away because I don't know if I can connect with you if I can't hear your voice. As someone who's energy sensitive, but this is also a very neurodivergent trait, certain voices I can't deal with. So I need to be able to hear your voice. And I'm not about to sit here and book a call with you to speak to you for 30 minutes to know that I don't like your voice or that I'm not connected to you. So this shows you the power of voice, the power of that authentic connection. And I didn't need to see you in a professional setting. I didn't need to see you behind your desk, suited and booted. I didn't need to see any of that. It literally could have been a video, you walking the dog, where you go, I'm out walking the dog today. Here's the dog. That would have been enough for me to be like, okay, cool. I can hear your voice and I like it. And you got a dog. Great. We connect already. Right. This is where people get confused, because people think that being personal and sharing personal information means you have to talk about everything that's going on in your life. You don't. But what's important to you? If you want people to come into your world who are like you need to be able to share things that are things that they would like. So the dog, for example, I'm a dog owner. I used to work with dogs. I'm obsessed with dogs. I would probably say about 90% of the people who work with me have had dogs, and the other 10% have had other types of pets. Like, not, I mean, there will be people, but overall, people don't come into my world who don't like dogs, because JC is more often than not, and I'm surprised she's just peeked her head up over there in the corner. Yes, you. I'm surprised she hasn't popped in to say hello, right? So if I see you've got a dog, I already like you more. My subconscious already likes you more. You don't have to tell me what the dog's name is, how much you pay for the dog, where you got the dog, what the dog's health is, what the dog eats. I don't need all of that information, right? Now, I know this is an extreme example, but people really worry about this of like, oh, I want to call in more people who understand this, like, especially with families, people who work with mothers, families, all of this dynamic. People are like worried about sharing about their family. They're like, I want them to know that I understand, and I want them to know I get it, and that I'm experiencing this too. But I don't want to share about my kids, and I don't want to talk about my partner, and I don't want to share all of this stuff. You don't have to, but at least referencing that they exist is important. It's valuable, and highlighting it. And it's like, I've had this before. I said to a client of mine, and she was just like, yeah, I don't want to show like my kids' faces. So don't show your kids' faces, but like, can you get a photo on the homepage that is clearly of you? And maybe it's like the kids walking off in the distance in the, so we can't even make them out, but we know that they're your kids, or like, and that maybe the dad's there as well, whatever it is. There's ways to kind of hide and keep your privacy whilst still being able to connect with people. And so you don't have that kind of vulnerability thing of like, oh God, they're going to see the kids. Oh God, they're going to know this about my life. Oh no, like, and that hangover. There's ways of doing it. There's ways of working it. Quite often we get so stuck behind this wall of I've got to share something. I've got to share something that's personal, and I've got to tell people X, Y, and Z, when really you don't have to give depth. You don't have to give all of this detail. I also have one client where we quite often very strategically work with the stories that are hers, but share them as if they are a client, right? Because it holds the same weight. Because I'm like, okay, tell me the story and I'll repeat it back. And we work with the energy and the frequency of that story, of that wound, of that experience, and then get to share it in a way that sits out of her, that feels like there's a nice protection barrier of like, I still get to share this story. I still get to help people, but the people who are in my world don't have to know that it's me. And I can kind of disassociate and disconnect in that way. So there's lots of ways you can do this stuff and be more vulnerable without it necessarily feeling like you're exposing your entire world and that you're sharing everything and that everyone's going to know everything about you, right? So there's so many ways to work with it. I don't believe in necessarily being professional anymore. So, I mean, I am really great at what I do. I've always been really great at what I do. I was shunned from many spiritual spaces, communities. I've been told off by spiritual practitioners because I swear. And I swear so frequently. And it's so natural to me. It is not forced. It's just part of what comes out when it needs to. And some would say that's not professional. But I would say the people that don't enjoy that don't have to consume my content. The people that feel pushed away or it brings something up for them, that's got nothing to do with whether I'm professional or not. They might have an opinion to say that I'm not professional, but then there's a whole few thousand people over on my email list that would say otherwise. So we really just have to sit within our own boundaries, and it's our own power and authority that gets to kind of sit in that energy and decide in that energy. Just a reminder, those of you who are here on Substack, if you do have any questions, do let me know. I think I might have just one more piece that I wanted to speak to. I'm just having a little look on my notes. I'm going to take another sip of my drink because I am very dehydrated today. I've been doing some real deep channeling the last couple of days, and I did a really deep breathwork session yesterday, which for me, it takes a lot of my salt content out of my body. I don't know the science behind that, but it is a thing. So I'm trying to hydrate more and more and more and more and more. Okay, yeah, what really is too much? That was the question. Too much is going to be, I don't want to say, this sounds like a little, it's up to you what too much is, but that is the truth, annoyingly. This is the thing with working with spirit. Because in reality, we always want to know the exact thing as a human. In the 3D, we want to have the thing. We want that kind of confirmation, that tick box, that like, here's the rules. And that's not how it works. Those of you who've had readings with me, sorry, there's a plane flying past right now. I hope that's not too loud. Those of you who've had readings with me will know this because it comes up quite frequently. Some stuff I can give you an exact direct answer, and mostly I will always give you action steps. I will always give you insight. I will always give you direction. But often people are just like, yeah, but what should I be doing? What should I say? What should I, what's right or wrong? And there isn't, for a lot of things, there isn't right or wrong. Obviously extreme examples, we know what's wrong, but a lot of it is just lived experience and journeying. And that's going to be the same about how much you share. Because until you share a little bit more and stretch a little bit more into what you might feel is too much, again, cross-reference it, make sure that it fits into, can I hold this? Can I share this? Is this going to be of service, help, empowerment? If it fits that criteria and you're stretching yourself and you're pushing that boundary, you're not going to know if it's too much. Even if someone says it's too much, you won't know that that is true for everyone who has heard, witnessed, and experienced that message. And sometimes, and especially when we're growing, we are sharing into the void. And I shared this probably over a year ago in my daily fix notes, where I spoke about this, of like, the reference is, if you think about a comedian, you think about some of the biggest comedians in the world, right? Someone recently just sold out like the biggest stadium ever for a comedian. But people selling out like 50,000 seater places for comedy. Not every joke is going to make everyone laugh. But overall, people will leave there better than they came. And that comedian didn't get there overnight. They spoke into the void. If you ever hear the stories of comedians and their come up, so many of them, especially here, like in the UK, there's the Edinburgh Fringe, where comedy festival, everyone goes there, but every place, every pub, every spare room is a space where a comedian will do a performance of some kind. And those guys are doing that, and they are speaking sometimes to one person in a room. Sometimes no one's in the room. Sometimes there's 5 people in a room. And that's how they got to get to the place with the bigger numbers, with more people. We have to be comfortable speaking into the void and not knowing if it's right, not knowing if it's wrong, not knowing if it's too much. If we cannot get comfortable in that uncomfortable, we won't ever hone our craft enough to be able to make most of the room laugh. So when we ask, like, how do I know if it's too much? test it and see. We have to be able to be comfortable. And this is where we talk about detachment, right? We have to be so detached from what we have already, because a lot of this really stems from us being like, okay, I've got people in my audience. I don't want to be too much because they'll go away. You have to be willing and okay with the fact that they might go away, not because you've been too much, but just because their energy's moved. Life has changed. Everything's ebbed and flowed. I say this all the time about emails. So many people are so scared of people unsubscribing from their emails. Oh, I don't want to send too many emails. People are unsubscribed. I've had people unsubscribe, still buy from me every other month. I've had people unsubscribe and come back again. Like, it's none of our business. It is really none of our business. We can't account for every single frequency in that O of the BU frequency, in that other. We can't account for everything that is going on with them. It's not our business. Our business is to make sure that we are holding our truth, our authority, our clarity, and sometimes our muddiedness as well, and being okay with the fact that it's not always really clear. And that we know and believe that this can help and serve someone in some way. Doesn't matter what professional looks like in that. It doesn't matter what too much looks like in that. Because the reality is everything will feel too much for you because it's yours. It will always feel too much. It will always feel like a stretch. But we have to be willing and able to have that. I'm coming back to that comedy reference. They're literally showing me in my mind someone in the comedy room, that one person that comedian is talking to, and this one person getting up and leaving mid-set. We have to be okay with that. We have to be. Because maybe that person left because it was shit, but maybe that person left because they had somewhere to be and they were never planning on being here for the whole set anyway. We don't know, but we're going to finish our set because we know that if we finish it, we can then do it again. And that's part of being in business. That's part of using your voice. And when it comes to that feeling of that kind of vulnerability hangover, find ways that you can self-soothe, nurture, work with your nervous system, the somatic response to things, because you're going to go again. You're going to go again. And that's the stretch. That's where it becomes important. And it's really, really valuable to sit in your power in that way. Okay, I think I am done, which is exciting. If anyone has any questions, I think I've got the chat going here, but if not, that is also totally fine. If you're watching this on replay, you can always send me some questions and I will potentially do another one of these. I think that this kind of format is cool. I quite enjoy just like answering and being in the moment. Like I say, this is how I work best. This is how I work when I'm doing readings, coaching, all of the in between. I've got such an itchy nose when I talk with spirit. It's ridiculous. I'm always like, my nose is itchy, my nose is itchy, my nose is itchy, and not wanting to like scratch it. Okay, I'm going to wrap up. I managed to talk for 53 whole minutes. I'm so good at this. Hopefully this has given some insight. I know it's not the usual. I know it's not the like, this is how you write a thing and do this with your messaging, but this is the point. This is the energy, the invisible work that works in between all of those lines. And the more that you are in the moment with this kind of stuff, the more that you are shifting your frequency, your power into being okay and comfortable in the uncomfortable, the more your brand will grow, the more confident that you will feel, the more people that you can help and serve, and the better you'll get. You will be that comedian that might, first of all, be speaking into the void, but eventually be really reaching thousands and thousands of people, even if that feels really scary as well. So thank you so much for joining me. I appreciate you so, so much. And I'll speak to you soon.